Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another video. And today we're going to be discussing the first episode of The Bad Batch. Full spoilers ahead. If you guys have not seen the episode, do not watch this video. I'm not going to warn you again. Also, before we get started, I've got a bit of a personal request for you guys. As you may be able to see on the channel, and as I'm going to link down below, on Saturday and Sunday of this week, I will be hosting my very own Star Wars Squadrons tournament with a $20,000 prize. This has been a load of work. It's a load of money invested on my end as well. I'm not paying for the entire prize, but I am paying for a good chunk as well as production costs, so I could really use your guys' help. I put a lot out there for this, and it would mean a lot if you guys would support me and check out the show on Saturday, Sunday, or both, or at the very least, go share the show with a friend. You can find day one stream scheduled already at the link down in the description. Go there, you can set a notification and leave a like, and that helps more than you know. Anyway, I'm sorry, but until then, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be plugging the hell out of it. I really appreciate your guys' support and, of course, your patience. So let's talk The Bad Batch. And if you guys want to see my live reaction, I actually did a watch-along party last night. Even if you haven't watched the episode yet, you can sync it up with when I start and we can kind of watch it together. But I thought today I would just give my overall impressions in case you don't want to watch a 70-minute long video. And to me, I think that was both the excellent thing about The Bad Batch episode 1 and also one thing that felt a little weird, because episode 1 of The Bad Batch had a lot of plot in it. It moved the story a lot overall, but I couldn't help think of it as like a sort of quasi movie. And I mean, it doesn't really work well from that perspective because it's not a movie. It doesn't have really a beginning, middle, and end. It has a beginning and then a continued beginning. And they get through a lot of setup content in this episode. First of all, right off the very beginning, we have the Bad Batch as a part of Order 66 with Kanan and his master, and Kanan did sound really weird. His voice did not sound like that of a Padawan. It sounded like a 40-year-old man. Don't really care. That's a minor nitpick. I would have rather they do that than go with a new voice actor. And of course, the Bad Batch sees this scene, and my prediction that the Bad Batch will commit Order 66 goes out the window completely, as except for Crosshair, they're really not affected because of their sort of diverging genetics and the chip not really affecting them, as we learn later on. Now, a lot of people have been complaining that this does sort of change the story as told in the Kanan comic. To be honest, that's not something that I recognize because I never read that comic before, but a lot of people are disappointed because they thought that comic was really good. But for me, I'm okay with the lore being changed a little bit, but I will say Disney and Lucasfilm did promise us that with this new generation of Star Wars storytelling, there would be a more cohesive story. I want to start seeing that. But of course, that's only the beginning stages of what would become a very large tension between the Bad Batch and external forces, including the Empire, but also one member of the group, specifically Crosshair. So the rest of episode 1 is really dedicated to seeing how the Empire is formed, how clones have really changed. Now, they're not really individuals with a personality anymore. They're essentially living automata, which is a little bit disturbing, especially after watching the Clone Wars. And that's another thing that really struck me about this episode. I wasn't expecting Tom Kane to be narrating things at the beginning. I know he was having some health issues, so hopefully his narrating things indicates that he's a little bit healthier than he was before. I'm really hoping that that's the case because it's been kind of quiet on his end for lately. But I wasn't expecting that. That was an excellent way to start the episode. And I mean, stylistically, it was just very, very similar to the Clone Wars, but now just following new characters. It's really a continuation of that show, and that's why I couldn't be more excited. I know I'm rambling a bit and jumping around, but I'm just really excited about what the future holds for this program. A lot of people were down on the Bad Batch early on, and I do still think there are a few worries, which we'll talk about at the end of the episode if I feel like it. I don't want to be too negative, but we are learning that this is really just a new chapter in the whole Clone Wars saga, just through the eyes of different characters. Obviously now, Commander Cody isn't really somebody who we can follow around because, well, he's fully indoctrinated, so we get the Bad Batch. As I said though, a lot has changed, not only in how clones work, but also the Empire itself. The Empire is looking to move on from clones because they're seen as not necessarily fitting with new Imperial doctrine. Tarkin, who features very prominently in the episode, says that to the Kaminoans that we don't need clones anymore because we're not in war. Of course, there's obviously ulterior motives there because the Empire certainly didn't demilitarize from the point of the Republic. So it'll be interested to see how that conflict continues this season, and it will definitely be a plot point that continues on. We see one of the cloners course, help the Bad Batch escape Kamino. A lot of people are suggesting that there may even be some form of a clone rebellion, which is presumably put down violently by the Empire. That would be awesome and also heartbreaking to see, especially if we can see what happens to some of our favorite clones from the TV show. And I think it would put an appropriately tragic end to the story of clones, how they're bred for war. They do nothing but fight, then eventually they're disposed of like they're nothing en masse. So that'll be interesting. We're also seeing how the Empire is treating the citizens of the galaxy very different than the Republic did. We go to Onderon and we see Saw Gerrera's crew. Of course, they were Republic supporters, but now they've become some of the galaxy's very first rebels, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get to see them somewhat develop into the partisans that we know by the time of Star Wars Rebels and Rogue One. And then, of course, we have, as I mentioned, the split apart of the Bad Batch, where they take on the new divergent clone Omega, who, by the way, I absolutely love. Often, I think with like a lot of people, I'm skeptical of children characters, but Omega is just awesome. She's very sweet, she's got a cool demeanor, and I just think she complements the group nicely. But of course, her inclusion comes with the quite obvious idea that Crosshair will now be serving the Empire. He got some cool new quasi-like Death Trooper / Black Clone Commando armor. I love that when he turns evil, the first thing they do is get him a new getup, and now he will be hunting the Bad Batch, and he will probably be on their tail for a while, which kind of leads me to my general discussion of this episode. I think going into the Bad Batch episode 1, pretty much all of us knew this was going to happen. We knew that the Bad Batch would somehow defect from the Empire, would be on the run. We knew that Crosshair, based on marketing material, would probably not be joining them, and that there would most likely be some conflict between both the Bad Batch and their former member, and the Bad Batch and the Empire. But beyond that, no one really knows where the show is going, and that's why it's exciting. And that's why it was very, very smart to include all of this in one episode. I personally think had they stretched this out to 3 episodes, I might have been a little frustrated with the feeling that the show is not going anywhere. But by getting this all out not only one night, but with another episode coming on Friday, the series is open for everything or anything, and that's totally exciting to me. Also, I think I would be remiss to not mention just how good the animation was in this episode. There were a few scenes that really just blew me away, that we're getting this in like a 16 episode season of a Star Wars show on Disney Plus. Like, just the scene when they're inside their shuttle going back to the Kamino, just how well everything was rendered and lit and animated, just blew me away. The action too was very interesting, and I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing a space battle this season. That's my one big ask. It's going to be difficult just because the Bad Batch is a smaller crew, but maybe we'll see some former CIS forces or something going against a new Imperial fleet. I don't know. Alright, so let's talk about my few worries about the show. The first is, I think, one that pretty much everybody honed in on. It's the fact that the Bad Batch members are essentially walking movie stereotypes or walking tropes. We've got the strong guy who's dumb, we've got the sniper who's cold, we've got the Rambo-like leader. I think you guys get the idea. And so far in this first episode, the Bad Batch didn't really break out of this mold, and I think a lot of people who didn't like the Bad Batch in Season 7 of the Clone Wars will still probably not like them here. That being said, we're still very, very early on, and I'm not truly worried about this point because I'm pretty sure a major aspect of this series is going to be the Bad Batch outside of their comfort zone, you know, where they haven't been living by any means a cushy life, but in fact the opposite, but they've been in their element throughout their entire lives. Now, you know, they're going to have to adapt to new things, and hopefully being pushed out of their comfort zone, maybe witnessing some sort of tragedy or something like that, will fundamentally change them as characters, and we'll see them evolve into more than just walking tropes. But guys, those are my thoughts on the Bad Batch. I really, really enjoyed. I nearly said loved. I'd say that I almost loved episode 1. It was great. I'd put it out like an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. Overall, though, episode 1 for me served as the episode that's going to get everything out of the way so that we can have a more exciting rest of season 1. So from that point of view, it did exactly what it needed to, and I'm incredibly excited. Alright guys, that's all I got for you today. Until next time, be safe, have a good one, and may the Force be with you.